This week, Conflict Zone is in Berlin as Germany contemplates the new leader in the White House. My guest is Norbert Röttgen, chairman of the Bundestag Foreign Affairs Committee. How worried is he about President Donald Trump? Norbert Röttgen, welcome to Conflict Zone. After Donald Trump was elected, Chancellor Merkel offered him cooperation based on values such as democracy, freedom, respect for human dignity. Cooperation can't happen anymore.
It will. And this is our determination, because this cooperation is not there is no substitute for this.
But based on values, this was the condition Angela Merkel expressed. Trump has called the press dishonest, freedom of press, and scum. He has spoken with very much disrespect about his opponents. I mean, where are the basic on values, which are the common ones?
The basis between Europe and the United States of America have to be demonstrated and proved in our common institutions. For example, NATO is such a common institution.
Before we are speaking about NATO, I want to continue to speak about Angela Merkel. I mean, she was very clear on that. Do you think that Mr. Trump believes in democratic values?
I think that you are conflating in your question the question of domestic issues of American policy and the cooperation between the United States and Europe. This was my point.
Separated?
Of course, of course. We do not interfere in American domestic policy.
But you interfered.
And politics.
You gave comments, others gave comments.
Yes, commenting. There's a difference between commenting on what is happening, but I do it and others do it with special regard to the implications of United States policy and political decisions to the relationship of the United States with Europe and other parts of the world. This is our special interest, and it's upon the Americans to make their decisions. They have had in a democratic election. This democratic election has a result, and the name of the result is Donald Trump.
Yes, but we don't have double standards, and Angela Merkel expressed her standards.
I stick to one standard, not to double standards, but to the one standard, and this is the European-American, the transatlantic relationship we have enjoyed for 70 years, and we are determined to continue this relationship because it is at the core of our security and of the international liberal order. And this is what we want to preserve, and I think we should make a difference between domestic policies wherever they are. We do have domestic topics in France, in Britain now with Brexit, and we are constrained and confined to the bilateral or multilateral international relationship. I think we can have a view on the developments on the domestic ground, but we concentrate and should concentrate on the international dimension of the relationship between the United States and Europe.
But you were less shy a few days ago. You said, quote, this was a speech from the president that would divide the country even more and that his language divide and isolate. What are the consequences for Germany that this president is using another rhetoric and another way to express his political dreams?
I think we have to be clear that it's not only rhetoric, but I think he has made clear in the meantime, during the campaign, after the election, in the inauguration, that he is determined that this what he says is what he means. So he wants to pursue this as a policy. And so the relevance of that what he said is that a division of the society will not make the United States stronger. We are interested in a strong United States,
so
in a unified United States, and isolation is the opposite of what we want the United States to be.
Yeah, but the United States are doing what they want to do with this president. Donald Trump has not been talking a lot with Germany, right? Till now. There were not a lot of...
Yes, he is in office for 1 weekend.
Yeah, but you never start to speak with somebody if since 6 months it's clear that he will be the president. But he does talk about Germany. He doesn't like Chancellor Merkel's policies, does he?
He has criticized the German refugee policy on the one side. On the other side, he expressed deep sympathy for those who are and were the victims of the carnage in Aleppo, for example. These are exactly those people who came to Europe, who found refuge and seek refuge in Germany. So I do consider this to be a little bit contradictory remark
Oh, I'm not
on the
so
German
sure. So let's look what he really
policy.
said. Trump says Merkel's refugee policy is a mistake. This is a very clear statement.
Absolutely.
And it's completely independent what he's thinking about Aleppo. He's speaking about Chancellor Merkel. Quote, I think she, Merkel, made one very catastrophic mistake. Catastrophic mistake, taking all these illegals. A catastrophic mistake by Angela Merkel?
Yes, as I mentioned, this was the one answer. The other answer referred to Aleppo and the carnage and the bloodshed there. And my comment on these two answers is that they seem to be contradictory, because those who fled the carnage, the turmoil, the war in Aleppo and Syria, were those we gave refuge here and shelter in
But
Germany.
He didn't like the solution that Angela Merkel chose. I mean, this is very clear. Independent of his point of view, he's criticizing Angela Merkel very, very clearly.
Absolutely. On the one side, in the one answer, he is criticizing Angela Merkel. In the other answer, he appreciates...
Do you really believe on this argumentation?
I only want to highlight that I see in the two answers a certain contradiction. This is the only thing I want to say. So you can take it as a criticism of the one answer, because in the other answer he says these people have fled this catastrophe and there is only one solution. If a refugee, a human being, a child, an old man, an old woman, if people are fleeing these a catastrophe, there's only one solution to that: to give shelter and protection to those who try to flee the catastrophe.
Let's continue to search how the relationship between both. Trump said that he trusts Angela Merkel as much as Vladimir Putin. An insult?
This is one of the answers which has led to irritation in Germany, of course.
What is your irritation?
Because we thought that there is a difference between an ally and an adversary, that there is a difference between a close ally and friend as a country and person, and a president of a country who spoiled the international order, who violates international law. And so to listen to an answer that makes no difference between an ally and a country under the presidency of Putin violating international order and spoiling what is relevant and fundamental for us, this of course was one of the remarks and answers which caused irritation.
That's all? Only irritation?
What should I say more than irritation? I think this is quite a lot to
for somebody
comment on
who
that.
is dealing with diplomatic language. Trump is not as diplomatic as you are. Trump even blames Merkel for Brexit. He said, quote, if Britain hadn't been forced to take in all the refugees, so many, with all the problems that it entails, I think that you wouldn't have a Brexit. So again, it's Angela Merkel's policy.
Obviously, this seems to be the answer he gave, that this was one consequence. I would say that immigration in general played a big role in the decision of a slight majority in the British electorate to vote for Brexit. And this is so due to the international situation of migration and immigration. The
but
Brits
he
certainly...
blames Angela Merkel.
Yes, maybe.
He is saying she is responsible for the Brexit.
Yes, not for the Brexit, but that the refugee policy contributed to the decision of the people to do so. Yes, this is his answer, yes.
Trump almost seems to look forward to break up the EU. Vladimir Putin is accused on the same thing. You are facing an anti-EU alliance as never before. I mean, America on one side, Russia on the other side.
You are very eager to even exaggerate what Mr. Trump has said. I remain and confine myself to what he has said, and it's enough for me.
He expressed that he has no respect for the European Union.
If you allow me to justify what I've said, there is not an alliance yet. He said, I don't bother if the EU is split or unified. It doesn't really matter for me. So he has not.
What does it mean?
It does mean.
Total
just wanted
change.
to explain what it means, what it possibly could mean. It does, in any case, not mean that we have to face an alliance between the United States and Russia, not at all, but it shows his indifference, explicitly his indifference to the European Union.
Are you sure that it's only
the main
indifference?
message he sent to the European Union is, I don't care a lot. And this is enough for me, because the European Union, of course, is part of the international liberal order. It is organizing, shaping globalization. Besides, there is a big difference to Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is highly interested in the question whether the European Union is split or unified, because the one means it is weak, the other means it is strong. And he is interested in destabilizing Europe, so he's interested in this question.
But you said Trump is questioning the foundations of the German security and prosperity. Are you concerned about what is coming out of the White House?
Yes, obviously, we have to take Trump and what he says seriously. He means what he says. I think there was doubt. Does he really mean what he said in the campaign trail? Was he serious about that? Was it a kind of foreign policy program, or was it only addressed to the American voter in order to persuade voters? Now we have to say, after the inauguration address at least and at the latest, he is serious about that.
So
and
about what?
Questioning, if I may conclude my sentence, if he questions the importance and relevance of the European Union as such, since he has questioned the very existence and necessity of NATO, this means this goes to the core of what has been at the center of European and German security.
So let's speak about,
exactly.
interest protectionism. President Trump said at his inauguration, and you just mentioned that we have to take him really seriously. Only America first. He said in an interview, I would tell BMW, if you build a factory in Mexico and plan to sell cars to the US without a 35% tax, then you can forget that. This is the beginning of a trade war.
No, you are very quick again. It's not yet a war, it was an interview. And there is a difference between an interview and a war. What he has shown there is...
So it's a war of words?
A war of words is, again, a difference to a trade war.
Is it a war of words?
It's not a war, but it shows a determination. In this interview, he announces a protectionist stance, which would not be in line and compliant to WTO rules. So there is a long way to go for him.
But he doesn't
But he
care.
makes clear, we will see, he has to care about what the rules of the WTO, because this is an international organization. You have to abide by the rules of this international organization. And I do not see that there is a consensus in the United States that the United States goes it alone. We have to see that, and we have not only to wait and see, of course, but we have to be proactive, offensive in persuading the public and the institutions in the United States.
We have seen Trump adopting these tough tactics with Toyota and Ford. And he was very successful. Is he a bully?
He has a strong rhetoric, and you have to observe.
Successful.
And you have to observe that he has been even I, and I only can of course have a judgment about his political period of life. He has yielded some results with his rhetoric so far, and of course, rhetoric.
Do you take him seriously about that?
I take him seriously.
So he's threatening the German economy.
He is, and he has a strong rhetoric, and this rhetoric, because it is the rhetoric of the President of the United States of America, has to be seen seriously.
But what are the consequences?
Has of course a consequence that he might be ready to draw the consequences of what he says. Yes. You have to take this into consideration.
So what does it mean for you? You are a very important German politician. What does it mean? I mean, he is now a president, and he fulfilled the first promises he explained, and he mentioned this very, very clearly. American first. Americans buy American products, which means don't buy foreign products, don't buy German products. I mean, there is a small step to boycott.
No, this is not a small. You seem to have an interest in exaggerating things.
So what is your judgment?
My judgment is that we have to fight for our principles, that we should fight for that what the success of the transatlantic alliance has been in the 70 years behind us. And this is a common legacy of free trade, because free trade is benefiting both. This was a commitment to mutual security, because this is benefiting both. So we should travel, we should make our case on all levels and talk to him, speak to others in the Senate, in Congress and others, and we have to make.
Mr. Trump needs you to come to America and to explain him what fair trade is. He gave an answer. Not with me, as long as I'm a president. There are clear decisions, and let's talk about.
No, there has not been one decision so far. I think we have to face realities, and the realities are strong. They seem to indicate a fundamental shift. They have the potential to jeopardize what our foundations have been so far, but we should not exaggerate what we see, because it is tough enough what is the reality, but there has not been one decision. There is not declared war to anybody, whoever and whatever in the world. So
and you don't believe that this is only a question of time?
No, of course not. I think we can't afford to be so fatalistic as you can't afford to be in your questions. But as a politician, we have to achieve results. And if we would accept what we now perceive as a rhetoric and as announcements, then this would cause a huge damage by historical measures.
Do you have a plan B if this happens?
No, I strongly reject to have a plan B, because I do not see a substitute for the role of the United States in contribution to European security. And so there is no plan B to European security. There is no plan B to the fundamental values which constitute our alliance. No, this is not. This has been so far the transatlantic view.
Okay, but it is
now
not
we have a new president.
But
we do not have a new country.
This President Trump has also criticized NATO. He says the military alliance is obsolete. Is it?
Of course not. The opposite is true. The NATO, the military community, in self-defending America and Europe, of course, particularly, has contributed to 70 years of peace in Europe.
Yeah, but you didn't contribute enough money. He said the US spends 3.8% of the GDP on defense. Germany only 1.2%, but Germany promised 2%. So can you give me one reasonable argument why President Trump should continue to accept this?
Yeah, because this is not a one-way road. Firstly, we should fulfill our obligations.
You didn't do.
Yes,
and you will not do.
We have started to change the direction. We will rise our defense budgets. we will rise our contributions to NATO.
If you continue like that in the year 2020, you will reach not more than 24%, at 1.4%.
Yeah, we have changed the direction, and we will certainly increase, or we will be more faster in adapting to what our obligations are. And in this, Trump and his predecessor the same. They have a point. I think it's clear the Cold War is over.
But he's taking the point as an argument to finish his obligation towards the NATO, to close the shop.
I think he rightly reminds us, as his predecessor did, and as Hillary Clinton certainly would have done if she were elected, that we have to live up to our obligations, and that the Europeans in general have to do more for their own security. And he's right in that. But this only underscores the necessity of NATO.
Do you think that the European army could be the plan B?
Not in the foreseeable future.
That means if Trump will do what he promised, he will not support any more NATO, not an European army. What is the defense idea of Europe and Germany?
I would dare to say that I'm absolutely sure that NATO will persist, that we will preserve NATO, because it will not take a long time. And everybody sees, including the American president, that there is no substitute for NATO. Apart from that, I see there is a huge majority in all of the democratic political institutions of the United States, particularly in Congress, in Senate, and in the House of Representatives, who want, of course, to stick to NATO, because this is a broad consensus within the American society and political system.
Again, optimism.
So we will.
Optimism.
No, this is a sense of reality that NATO will persist, of course.
Let's speak about realities in international policy, because Mr. Trump is fulfilling a promise. The Middle East. Donald Trump says he's going to move the US embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He says he's recognizing that Jerusalem is the capital. Should Germany follow the example of the US?
No, if he recognized what the capital of Israel is, the state of Israel, then he would leave the embassy in Tel Aviv.
He is going to Jerusalem. Is this an example that Germany will follow? Yes
who's
or no?
Going to
the U.S. embassy is moving from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
It's not a decision which has yet been taken. It's not a decision.
I mean, he called to Netanyahu, he expressed this the last hours. This is something he can decide by himself. Isn't the moment, I mean, we are talking now a few days after he is now inaugurated. Can we continue with a strategy that we are closing our eyes and our ears and saying he will not do what we are concerned that he's doing?
If I don't share your exaggerations, I'm not closing my eyes.
Do you think that it's appropriate that he wants to go to Jerusalem with the embassy?
I try to have a very clear view on what he says and what we have to prepare for. But what has not been decided yet, I don't take as a decision yet.
Germany helped negotiate the deal with Iran on its nuclear program. Let's listen what Trump says about it. It's one of the worst deals ever made, one of the dumbest deals I ever seen. Angela Merkel too signed this dumb deal.
As the American president did. Yes, there is real concern about the future of the Iran nuclear agreement. This is one big issue of concern. Not only because of the comments of the President of the United States, Donald Trump, but because there has always been a great skepticism and rejection in the Senate, particularly among Republican senators.
So how can the deal stay in place if America does not support it anymore?
There is concern that with regard to the lifting of the sanctions, there will occur problems, then the Iranians will not feel themselves obliged to fulfill their part of it, and then we will have all the problems which have been at least delayed for 10, 15 years.
Do you think that this will happen?
I do not know if it's going to happen. I mentioned this is a big-ish topic, subject of concern, that this may take this course, and then we will have additional huge problems with regard to nuclear arms proliferation in the region, and by
the world
retaking...
is less secure since Trump is president, right?
The world is not... There are dangers that when we give up what the Western fundamental contributions and determination to the international order, to inject and contribute to stability, negotiation, diplomacy, if we would give up that, if we gave up our will to do that, then of course we would backtrack from contributing to stability, and I don't see anybody else fulfilling this part we have played in the past.
Norbert Röttgen, thank you very much for being on Conflict Zone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.